permission to speak. Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you. Never lose hope.
Here, Fred Shaman.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend!
Welcome to episode 452 of Concede, our Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, June 20th, 2024 in the evening. Coming to you from Numbergon, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From North Bend, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Teldrassil, California, we have Megasa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. We're going to do things a little bit differently. This week's episode is brought to you by our producers, Number Theory, Crash, Beef Squatch, David P., Walu, Jeremy T., Bottlecaps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, Forgiven One, Grizzly Bear, and Tyler Knife, as well as by our patrons of the week, Penultimate Andy and Stevie Bats. Thank you all so much for your support. Just so you all know, you can go to patreon.com/coinconcede to get perks like early access to new episodes and one-on-one coaching sessions and help the show in the process. And now get your name said at the beginning of the show every week as a producer or once in a while, and you'll have to wait for it as any other level of patron. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. So, Life and Ladder. Megasa, you are just like rocking the ladder right now. You're the star of the show in terms of ladder performance. So why don't you tell us about it?
Well, thank you. Yes, so I was kind of on top of the world last week and going, well, I don't know how long this is going to last. You know, I came in really high in like the 300-ish, 400 range. Climbed into the 200s with Insanity Warlock and was like, I don't know if I'm staying here. I'm switching back to Zarimi. And I've actually peaked this week at 188. Then immediately ran into 3 people with golden card backs. One of them was Casey, and he wasn't using the golden card back, but I know he has the golden card back.
He was using the golden card back in his heart.
And I don't think I had the greatest luck during them, but I also... I'm sure that, you know, I also saw there is no forgiveness at all with those players, right? They are playing the absolute best that they can play their decks. And I have a screenshot in the show notes of just getting absolutely blown out by Casey's Gaslight Rogue, where he had like 6 8/8s and a Celestial Projectionist on 6. And that was a little too many.
So an average rogue board, in other words.
You are not the only one who has been unhappy with this. I think after hitting like all the other non-game decks, I guess we'll call it, or you know, decks that do stuff like this, now when Rogue does it, it feels especially egregious. And I guess to some extent Painlock still does sometimes, but I feel like that doesn't happen nearly as often, which is...
No.
Yeah, and to be fair, sometimes Zarimi does make boards, like, I have one here, where I have, like, 5 for attack gift wrap whelps and a pip. You can kind of imagine how this happened on turn 4, by the way, against a poor... I never found out what kind of druid. I think it was a hybrid druid. I'm not positive. Matter. They just died. It was the kind of thing where I was like, I don't know what my opponent's doing, but it doesn't matter. There's a day 9 video where he's like, if you don't know what strange and unusual thing your opponent is doing, just effing kill them. Of course. Just kill them.
I got Aulonius today, and I don't even need that to be mad at druids, so...
I mean, that's like me being mad at Rogue for just playing cards. It's the same thing.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. It's really fun getting to, and this is the highest that one of the highest that I've been in general, but also the highest that I've been not only playing one deck, but I do feel that I've played Zarimi to the level where there's a lot of details of, you know, planning ahead on the drifters. Which one drop do you play when? You know, when are you protecting your board and when are you going face? Zarimi doesn't get back on board super easily unless you have an actual Zarimi turn, so you do want to protect your board to some extent, but if you're just trading all day, then you're not doing damage, and then most decks are happy if you give them time. So there's lots of details like that. A couple games I had today, I actually put in Marin, which, as I was saying before the show, there's a county in the Bay Area in California called Marin. It is spelled the same way. It is where I have lived my entire life. And I'm going to get this wrong for 2 years, so you're just going to have to bear with me. I'm really going to try. Maybe I'll get it. But every time that I hear it, it's like a little record scratch. It's like, no, that's wrong. That's not how you pronounce this. So, Marin.
All I'm thinking of now is that line in Office Space where the guy asks Michael Bolton why he doesn't change his name, and he says, "Why should I change my name? He's the one who sucks."
Office Space is such a good movie.
That reminds me, when it reminds me of a time in freshman year of high school where I was sitting next to someone who had the same name as me on assigned seats. And it was like, uh-oh. And like neither of us wanted to switch to the full version of the name. It's like, so the teacher messed us up consistently. But Marin works pretty well as like a follow-up to Zarimi or a Reno board, although I don't have Marin. Breakdance, as Edel pointed out before the show, is an even better thing to do on a Reno board. But draw 3, and maybe you get a free Amanthul, or even if it's not, you get 3 free cards, and you drew 3 in a deck that doesn't have a lot of draw. That's great. You make a couple legendaries on the board, and you have an extra one. Sure. So it was not quite able to save me against a Reno Warrior this morning, but that's because I didn't save my 3rd Amanthul for the Ziliax, which was on me. I played really well around the Reno. I played really well around the Safety Goggle Sanitize. Forgot about the Ziliax. There's always something. I also had a game against an Excavate Rogue where they stuck a Monpaw for like 3 or 4 turns, which was not ideal, as one does. Finally, I found my Amanthul, which was like the only way I could deal with it, because of course they kept my board clear. Even when I had my Zarimi turn, they had so many taunts in the way, I still couldn't clear the Monpaw.
Wow.
Okay.
So I finally got the Drilly and the Monpaw, but there was still like a Ziliax. Anyway, with Marin, I got 2 Baron-Geddons, and that finally cleared the board. But also left me at like 3 health, which is not a health total you want to be against with a rogue. They actually didn't have a rock or something. I was expecting to just get a rock immediately to the face. They didn't have one, but they did somehow copy my Baron-Geddon and then just use their hero power. And then that was 3 to my face. So,
pretty good.
And then the last thing I'll say, I've been only playing ranked when I'm feeling like I can focus, do a good job with it. So in the evening, I'll play like casual or twist. And I did play a hero power druid that I had been talking to Alteris in the Discord about making. It was really their brainchild. And they had probably what is the typical luck with it, which is to say it kind of just dies a little bit. But if it draws right and doesn't get killed, you can get like 20 attack on turn 6 or like 30 attack on turn 10. It was a even hero power druid with like Sing Along Buddy and the pixie that refreshes your hero power, which works a lot better when your hero power costs 1, and Groovy Cats, and then ways to copy the Groovy Cat. If you don't draw the Groovy Cat, you're kind of stuck. Doesn't really work very well. But if you do draw both Groovy Cats on like turns 2 and 3, then
oh yeah, because you can't run the 1-drop who draws a beast now because it's even. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
yeah.
There's been I've seen other even druids running around, but this one, and I think maybe going for the OTK a little bit more, it would actually work better because if you wait long enough to get the Groovy Cats, it's consistent. But it was definitely a casual only deck, I think, even though I did have some good screenshots with it. So overall, that was my week on ladder. I will not go into the week on life because we have a very long episode, and it was mostly just me realizing that my grad school classes are more work than I thought, and I really need to plan them around the expansion coming out. I'm like literally sitting there going, they're all online classes with no intermediate deadlines, which is the worst for ADHD. So I'm sitting there making my own intermediate deadlines going, I should have a lighter load the week before the expansion and the week of the expansion. I just know this. So I'm trying to figure out how that's going to work. And that's how I'm doing.
How about you, Wiccan?
Well, I plan my vacation around the expansion, so that was nice because I have to take 2 weeks in July, and like, well, one of them's going to be the week the expansion comes out, so that's sorted at least. But I was kind of getting, I was at a rank where I didn't really want to play a lot of standard, both because I wasn't feeling like I was mentally up to it, and also because I wasn't really like Insanity Warlock's fine, but that was the only thing that I was even getting like close to wanting to play. And I did play some Twist. I tried some Nose Dormu after one of the nerfs, and it felt a little bit better. But also, I just kind of felt like I was treading water. And then yesterday, TikTok posted a list that is probably the most fun that I've had in a month. I don't know if this deck is good, though. I've been seeing a lot more of it popping up. Full credit goes to Jack Attack. He told me, because I talked to him today, and TikTok said that Jack Attack was the one who originally designed the list, and I suggested calling it Jack'Excavate Rogue because it is, or Jack'Excavate Mage rather, because it's an Excavate Mage, and it's running Marin, and so Marin. Now you got me doing it.
I got you doing it. I'm gonna spread it everywhere.
So Marin County. No. So so Marin is the combo that a lot of people are running with Marin is with Puppet Master Dorian, because then when you draw the 3 cards, you get 1 cost copies of any minions that you draw. This is also running Mazadune, and the only elemental is Sleet Skater. So you just freeze everything and gain a gazillion armor, and it is delightful. And it has basically no win condition, so it's perfectly my deck. You figure it out along the way. Maybe you get a Titan that does some damage. Maybe you discover some burn off of Infinitize. Maybe your opponent just gets tired of the fact that you're gaining 30 armor and gives up. But it's just all the Excavate cards and then a bunch of like big butts at the top end and Sleet Skaters, and it is delightful. And I am enjoying it quite. Oh, you get to run Puzzle Master Khadgar, which I haven't really gotten a chance to play a lot. I did kill somebody with 2 DJ Mana Storms that I had summoned off the Marin summon a legendary, just because they were the biggest thing that I could get, and I just need butts on board. So I actually got to hear DJ Manastorm's attack, which I'd literally never heard because I've never seen the card played. And sometimes you just deal 10 with a Blast Mage Miner, and sometimes that's just fine too. Like you forget like how much fun the Mage Excavate cards are until you've played them. So I'm enjoying that quite a bit. I have no idea if I'm playing it right. I'm probably not. But I just basically stay positive and don't die. And that's been how I've been playing it. And I've been enjoying that a lot. It's definitely been a breath of fresh air when I was getting a little bit. It felt like things were getting stale, but it does feel like this change that they put in at the beginning of the week is breathing a little bit of new life. I mean, it's still a lot of the same old decks, and we'll talk about everything later, but this is definitely the most fun I've been having in Standard in a while. So highly recommend if you are a degenerate like me who enjoys control decks and having decks with no win condition.
Well, I took full advantage of them putting Genn and Baku in, which we'll talk about. That's in for a month until the new expansion, as well as Marin, new card, because it's pretty. I figured if any deck could run Marin, it would be Excavate Rogue. And then I was like, you know what? I kind of like it better if I don't deal with the Azurite Scorpion and just do Marin things. So I made a deck with like kind of a pirate package, the main draw being the one that draws you a weapon and 2 pirates. that one.
Okay. Yeah,
And-
I don't remember what it is either because I haven't seen that card played in a while, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they put it in core, and you've got the 4-mana 3/3 weapon that summons a 1/1 that attacks immediately, and you've got the location that makes something into a 5/5. So sometimes you get that curve of location into the weapon, get an immediate 5/5 that attacks. Raiding Party is the draw spell. Thank you, Tic Tac. And other times, I save the location for a turn 5 of the Reducing Pirate and then the Copying Pirate, and so you get 2 rushing 5/5s. And Goldbeard is in there, and Marin is also a pirate. So, pretty consistently can draw Marin, and it really was just about playing him a whole bunch. If we even got there. Sometimes the other stuff won the game, but a lot of times it's you go for wand, and you keep shuffling in more treasures, and then playing the wand to find the treasures, and playing a whole bunch of Xerog's Crowns and having crazy Sonya turns. It was a good time. It did then sort of hit a wall when I actually hit Legend, but on the climb to Legend, it went great. I went like 7-2. And the highlight of the week was I got a Xerog's Crown into Shoplifter Goldbeard. I did not know how that was going to work, but this was against a Highlander warrior. So I did not feel bad at all when I unwittingly just had my board fill with Shoplifter Goldbeards that attacked immediately. Because apparently that's what happens. I knew that's what happened when you did it as a combo. There are decks built for this interaction where you copy one. I did not realize that it worked that way when you get it off of Xerog's Crown. And then they were only able to clear one of them. And Xerog's Crown also gives you the minion to hand, so I just played the one from hand, and it happened all over again. So that was a delight. But otherwise, I've still been playing a lot of Elden Ring. I finally got to the final boss. I have all the relevant talismans. I beat Millennia, the unoptional but considered the hardest boss. So now I'm on the final boss, and I'm all set for the DLC. Which of course is coming out in far too close proximity to the new Hearthstone expansion. But considering I'm pretty sure it's like a Dark Souls 3 sized DLC, if not in complete content, at least in terms of size. There's 8 new weapon types that are getting added.
Oh, that's like a whole 2 months for you just by itself. Forget the content. Forget anywhere you're gonna go. That's just
because the way I play is I'm not just saying, oh, I'm gonna use katanas and I'm gonna do that the entire game. No, I've made a build for there's the Sword of Night and Flame, right? I did that for a while, and there's other weird Int Faith builds. I basically go with a pairing of core stats, I'm going to do Strength Int now, or Strength Faith, or Faith Dex. Right now, I for a while went back to Dex Arcane, which is basically the bleed builds, and I just try all the weapons within that category. Which involves a lot of runes to be able to upgrade the equipment to actually get good sort of testing in against the enemies I'm facing. But yeah, adding 8 new weapon types is it's gonna be tough.
that'll keep you out of trouble for a while.
They're making a faster kind of greatsword. As well as repeating crossbows, I think. It's a lot to dive into. I'm also making odd and even decks in Hearthstone. So I'm surprised I haven't seen more odd Demon Hunter, because I tried that for a bit and that felt great.
I think people are just too stuck on the fact that you can't do the shopper combo.
Yeah.
So then they're like...
Yeah, but I see, I was almost going to break the rules. Screw shopper. I hate shopper. It's so boring taking advantage of this stupid interaction from it being 4 set. I hate that. the deck is all 1-drops. There's like a few cards that are more than that, besides obviously Baku to make it work. But 1 mana deal 2 damage is really good, and I don't know how people forgot that. And the sock puppet Slither Spear is very strong.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a card.
Like if you coin out 2 of those on 1 and they don't have an answer, like people just die.
Yeah.
Because they're hitting for 3 on turn 2 minimum, which is the hero power. So
see, the problem is that most people have forgotten like most of the Demon Hunter cards that are still legal in standard, like because they haven't seen them other than like Shopper and like whatever stupid demons that you discover from those. So,
I mean, it's a lot of neutrals, right? Miracle Salesman, Frequency Oscillator, the Drone Deconstructor, like.
You can still run Sigil of Time in standard, right? That's still standard legal, right?
You can. I'm not, because I'm running the Divine Favor one.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
right?
that'll do too.
You forge it, and then you draw up to their hand size +2.
Yeah. And the Titan is odd too, isn't it?
It is, but that is way too much
I mean,
mana.
that's also 1 million mana for what you're doing. You wanted them to be dead long before that, I'm sure. But,
This is tempting me to get off Zarimi, and that is dangerous with what I'm doing now. But
not where you are. No, this is not that. You do that in casual. Don't you do that in rank 200. That's not a good idea.
Mostly, I've been surprised that I haven't encountered more odd and even decks on ladder. But I don't think we have mentioned on the show yet how and why this is happening. So
why don't we do that? Why don't we go talk about some news so that we can stop alluding to things and start actually talking about them.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
Okay, so we've had some light news weeks for the last couple weeks, and that was because we were waiting for a new expansion, and we got the announcement on Monday. It is called Perils in Paradise. It is going to be out on July 23rd. If you have not watched either the expansion reveal video, which was delightful, which has Leo, Minty Fresh, and Sage Giorgio doing the walking through the concepts of the expansion, or the new video that Hearthstone tweeted today with the airline that is leaving for the resort, go watch those. This is some of the best like expansion teaser content that they have put out in quite a while. We are at like the Lich King interviewing for an internship at Blizzard level of content.
The video that they put out today features several content creators. They actually flew them out. They were on a real plane. There was not a list anywhere of who was in it, but I was able to sleuth it out with some help from Hatch. So we have Raffle and Patra as flight attendants, Tom60229, Jimbei, Tice, and Feelink as passengers, a couple of cosplayers, Dark Lady cosplaying Sylvanas and O Sanguine cosplaying Jaina, and Sottle and Odemian are the pilot and the co-pilot. And there might also have been a couple other people who slipped through here, but so sorry if I spoiled the oh yeah, but if you're wondering who was that person, they look familiar. That is who all the people were, and clearly they're all having a great time just hamming it up.
And I can only imagine there's going to be more things like this, because we still don't know what, Baby Bear, Jombre, Language Hacker, and Housewife are up to. And they posted to their Twitter photos of being at Blizz HQ. So,
and there must be more coming.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some other stuff, and if it's anything at this quality level, then it's going to be a banger. So we haven't even talked about what the expansion is yet. So, Marin, as we have alluded to, he has given up his life of crime. He's opened up a resort in the Spiral Isles, and so everyone in the Hearthstone universe is going on vacation.
Is that giving up your life of crime, or just, changing it around?
I don't know. Is he running a casino? I don't know if there's a casino at the resort. If there's a casino, maybe not. Who knows?
It is called Perils in Paradise.
Yeah.
There might be some danger
A little bit
hidden in this
looking
resort.
books.
Yeah.
We'll see. So the new keyword is tourist. So there is a legendary tourist card for each class. And what that does is it does something. So the two that we have are Sunsapper Lanessa, who's for Paladin. She's a rogue tourist. Your spells that cost 2 or less cast twice. And we have Buttons for Death Knight. He's a Shaman tourist with a battle cry, draw a spell of each spell school. So what happens when you put a tourist in your deck during the deck building phase? You will have access to that class's cards from this expansion. Only from this expansion. So you're not like Buttons isn't giving you Shadow Step. Very important. Just the rogue cards from Perils in Paradise.
Prep is more important there. Can you imagine playing her and then prep it casts twice so you can play a spell that costs 4 or less and that will cast twice? Yeah, it would get pretty silly pretty fast.
Yeah. So you're only getting access to those, but it is giving you access to more cards if you put this one legendary into your deck.
And one thing to note there, you do not get access. So if you play Buttons, the Death Knight that gives you Shaman cards, you get all of the Shaman Peril and Paradise cards except for whatever Shaman's Tourist is going to be. So you can't like chain your destination classes. And like this is a chill vacation. You're going to one place and then you're staying there. You're not like doing a cruise where you're stopping in a different city every single day. And you have to hustle. No. So some other notes about it. These cards that you're adding to your deck, they're added to your regular 30-card deck or 40-card if you're in Wild and playing Renathal. It's not like some sort of sideboard. It's not discovered during the game. It's like part of the regular deck building, and it follows regular deck building restrictions. So you can't put like more than 2 of a card or 1 of a legendary. And it's one way. So Buttons lets you put Shaman cards in your Death Knight deck, but you can't put Death Knight cards in your Shaman deck. Whatever the Shaman's Tourist is, will have a different class.
This was very important for Sidisi because Priest's Tourist is Hunter. And he was very concerned that he might have to play Priest cards. But he dodged a bullet because they only did it in that direction.
Uh-huh.
So that just means that I get to beat him with Hunter cards, which is almost as bad, but not quite as bad.
I kind of wonder what Hunter cards they're going to make, like that you're possibly going to want in Priest.
I mean, ones that deal damage, those would be nice. Like
actually end the game.
It's win conditions, maybe. I don't know.
I thought you hated those.
I mean, I like having them eventually, you know. But yeah, there is a chart in the announcement of which classes are getting which Taurus, so you can go and see what that is. There's basically a chain going from Paladin, so Paladin to Rogue to Warlock, Warlock Death Knight, etc., etc., etc. So you can go look that up. Also, very important, you do not get access to all of those cards automatically. You get the ability to put those cards into your deck as though they were part of your class, which is very important. You still need to own them, and you don't just get them all added to your deck automatically by virtue of having the Taurus there in addition to the 30 cards. You just get that class's cards added to the available pool of things that you can choose to put into your deck. So that's Tourist. And then we also have drinks. So drinks are spells that have 3 uses or as they say, 2 refills. So the example we got was Malted Magma, a 2-mana Shaman spell that says deal 1 damage to all enemies, 3 drinks left. So if you think of Bunch of Bananas or Barrel of Monkeys for Hunter, it's the same thing. You play it, you get another one back in the same spot in your hand, you play it again, you get another one back, it says last drink, and then you play that, and then you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So and there are some cards that will give you random drinks. I'm sure there might be other drink synergy. We'll find out. We haven't seen anything yet. And there is also an increased emphasis on locations because we're on vacation. We're going to go visit some locations. So what is different about the locations in this set is that they will reopen immediately when you fulfill the condition. So the example we have is Hiking Trail for Druid. It's a 3-mana, 3 durability location that says discover a taunt minion. after you gain armor, reopen this. So as soon as you gain armor, so if you say press the button, then hero power, it opens right up again. So you don't have to wait the 2 turns for that. So that's something that's, that we'll see what there is. I mean, discover a top minion feels kind of benign, but there might be some that are a little bit more impactful. We'll see what those look like.
And one thing to note, if you do not gain armor, it will eventually open back up at the regular time. But you can open it early, even multiple times in the same turn, if you meet the condition after using it.
And again, Marin the Manager is the login reward. So he's a 7 mana 6/6 pirate with Battle Cry. Choose a fantastic treasure. Shuffle the other 3 into your deck. These are the Heist Baron Togwaggle treasures, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So they're the same ones. I think they might have been the same ones that you could break from. The original one would like summon like a barrel on the other side of the board and you broke it to get a treasure. So I think these are the same ones. I don't remember if they're the same ones.
Right. Yeah. The original Marin worked that way. Heist Baron Togwaggle was basically this card, except that 7th mana was a lackey that you played that turn.
Right.
And
Yep.
it wouldn't, I believe, shuffle the others in your deck in that case. Maybe I'm misremembering, but I thought you just
I think
one.
you just picked one. So this one gives you 1 now and then the other 3 later. So the treasures, in case it's been a while, because that was Year of the Dragon when that card was printed. Rise of Shadows, that was the name of the expansion. So you have a Golden Cobalt, which is a 3 mana 6/6 taunt with taunt. Battle Cry, replace your hand with legendary minions. Wondrous Wand, which is a 3 mana spell, draw 3 cards, reduce their cost to 0. Toland's Goblet, 3 mana spell, draw a card, fill your hand with copies of it. And Zarik's Crown, a 3 mana spell, discover a legendary minion, summon 2 copies of it. So the general order that you're going in is Wondrous Wand is what you almost always are going to pick, except in very specific situations. And then you prefer to get Zarik's Crown, then Toland's Goblet, then Golden Cobalt are kind of the order of priority a lot of the time, but there are situations obviously when you might want other things.
My experience has been you take Wand, you hit Crown is your threats, you keep shuffling more stuff, and the other things are just anti-fatigue, right? Those are the ones you actually play, and maybe if you need to, eventually you stop playing Wands, and you just do Crowns as much as possible.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're playing against a warrior and then you goblet so you don't draw the TNTs, basically. Or
right,
against like Death Knight. Yeah.
That's what I mean. I had the times that I've beaten Highlander Warrior with my rogue was basically like, play Marin as many times as possible, don't really play Wand, and if TNTs hit stuff, it's okay. I still have many treasures.
Not all of us are playing umpteen Marins. Some of us are playing 1 Marin.
Why would you play just one? I don't understand.
No, why would you play 1 Marin when you could have a Marinade? All right. Anyway, that's enough of that. So you can go pre-order the bundle now. So there's a mega bundle which has 80 Perils in Paradise card packs, 10 golden packs, 1 random signature legendary, 1 random Perils in Paradise golden legendary, and the Hakar the Houndmaster card back in hero skin, which I believe is for Hunter, because who else would have a Houndmaster? The regular bundle is 60 packs, 2 random legendaries, and the Hakar card back. And again, that launches on July 23rd. So that is the expansion. We will talk much more about the cards in Decksplanations, because this is a news-only episode, because we're very excited and there's a lot to talk about. But we also got a patch because we got a new expansion. So we have patch 29.6, which again has Marin the Manager as the login reward. And then they dropped this little nugget that Genn and Baku are returning to core. So if you do not remember Genn and Baku, they were only in standard for a year because they were so prevalent that they got rotated out early. They were introduced in the Witchwood. Genn is a 6 mana 6/5 with the text start of game. If your deck has only even cost cards, your starting hero power cost 1. Baku the Moon Eater is a 9 mana 7/8 with the text start of game. If your deck has only odd cost cards, upgrade your hero power. The upgraded hero powers are the same as what you would get if you played a Just a Card True Heart. These are the odd and even decks. that we had for a year, and then they rotated them out.
And that Wild still has in abundance.
Yes. And there are some things you can do. This is probably the best indicator of how different a game Hearthstone is today than in was this 2017 that this was? Probably, right? I think, or 2018, one or the other.
One of those two. I think 2018.
One of those two. Yeah, that sounds about right. Because I think Rasticon's Rumble was at the end of that. Was at the end of that cycle. And I remember that being BlizzCon 2018. So even Warlock seems to be the one deck that's really prevalent that's utilizing Genn.
Yep.
Because you can just tap for one. And then that was always one of the Genn decks. That was even Warlock was a thing that you would do.
Yeah, there was Odd Rogue, which I think part of why that existed was the 5-mana spell, draw the rest of your deck.
Yep. Yeah, that super helped. Yes.
Because we have Henchclan Thug in core right now, although, as you say, times have changed. That's no longer just the powerhouse curve, right? You play 1-drop into hero power into Henchclan Thug. But that was a good one because you got the 2/2 dagger. Odd Paladin was quite prevalent because you had a bunch of dudes, and there was Quartermaster.
Well, there was Level Up, right? And that was from
Right.
Kobolds and Catacombs.
Yes.
And
Level Up before it got nerfed.
well, it got nerfed, and then it became even Paladin, right? So it
Call
was
to
like,
arms.
yeah. So it was like whichever one had the more broken Paladin cards at the time was the that was the deck of choice. But yeah, you had both odd and even Paladin at a certain point. That was Valley Rally Pally, wasn't that an even Paladin? Valinir was an even.
Yeah, maybe at one point.
Yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
or maybe that was just a version of it, but I remember running Valinir in even Paladin at one point. So, but that's also like there are not a lot of decks that are going to be able to play with that restriction in 2024 Hearthstone. But even Warlock seems to be reasonably good because you can just get like Dark Alley Pack down and then start doing things like Endgame and the 6-mana spell and stuff like that.
And the giants are pretty much all even cost. There was nothing that you absolutely needed that was odd cost. We had an entertaining discussion in the Discord when it first dropped. It's like, oh, can we do like a fast priest with either one of these? And it was quickly like, no. If you're even, you don't have Crimson Clergy. That's a little bit important. If you're odd, you don't have like, it was like, oh, maybe we could do like an odd overheal. Well, you don't have Hedonus. So that's a bit of a problem. As any sort of fast deck these days tends to have a very like tight set of cards that's very load bearing. Perhaps there's something that we haven't thought of is also part of it. But
the hero power also has to matter. And the game is such that, and cards are such that if your cards are good enough, your hero power matters less because you're not using it as often. The things that were crazy, right, were like Odd Hunter with the deal 3 damage hero power. To some extent, if you did an even Hunter where you just weave it in with secrets, and then Demon Hunter wasn't around back then, but when Demon Hunter released in Wild, Odd Demon Hunter was insane because you basically get the best of both, right? Your hero power already costs 1, and now you get it upgraded to dealing 2 damage. So that's why I gravitated towards that. I also wanted to try out Death Knight as even. Odd doesn't really do much for the class, but even getting like 1 mana make a corpse is pretty good. And I actually had some success with that. Another thing is that when you do even, you can put some odd cards in ETC. So that's kind of a way to sort of like stealth in some odd cards that you might want access to if you're playing an even deck. But otherwise, like, we just don't have that many things that want that upgraded hero power. At the time, when first release, there was support for these things, right?
Well, there was support in Shaman for these things. There was like the other cards were not great for the most part. Shaman was the one that had Merc Sparkiel, right? And that's really why even Shaman took off.
A little more fringe, but you also had Odd Mage, right? Where you had the 7 cost that if you hero powered enough times, it summoned Ragnaros. And
Oh yeah, that was a thing for like a minute. That's right. Yeah.
Black Cat was a 3-mana 3/3 with spell damage +1. Battle Cry, draw a card if you only had odd cards in your deck.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So there at least was some support, and if not direct support, sort of, I think, mental support in the sense that they designed cards to exist in an environment of Genn and Baku. Whereas right now they're just like throwing them in and seeing what people come up with. So it's different. Like you can make an odd warrior, but that doesn't actually jive entirely with the way that Odin functions, because usually the way people build Odin decks is like turbo draw and then just kill you all at once. It's hard to just do a tank up, rank up warrior right now.
Yeah. And losing Sanitize out of that deck is kind of a big deal also.
Yep.
Like Sanitize and Shield Block and like Blade Storm and Aftershocks. Like those are all, that's like most of the warrior's removal package and a lot of its armor. And like it's all gone if you try to do Odd Warrior, and that it's a lot harder to get to Odin if you're dead before turn 9. So yeah, but there are things you can do. We will talk a little bit later about a tournament that is mandating at least one deck have Genn Baku and how the players decided to handle that, which was very entertaining. But just know that that's something, if you're starting to see weird stuff, or if you haven't been playing a lot and all of a sudden you see something happen at the beginning of the game, that's what's going on. Buddies are back. We talked about it explicitly last week. We're not going to cover it again, but know that that's there. I played a few games of BGs. I lost all of them because I play terribly when buddies are in, but they are there. So go enjoy that if you are a buddy enjoyer. The Midsummer Fire Festival will be starting on June 25th, going through July 16th. There will be event quests to earn event XP for a total of 6 Whizbangs Workshop packs, and then the Reaver Voltron Rogue hero skin. So if you're interested in that, just do your dailies and you will get those. We got the announcement of the July Twist heroes. So they had told us when they announced the June Twist season that there were going to be additional heroes that were going to be added in July. So they're adding Marin the Manager, who has got 35 health for now. Passive sees the opportunity when you play a rightmost card, draw card. So he's got the Stargazer Luna effect just built into his passive. And Hero Power Investment, 1 mana, shuffle 3 coins into your deck, which will also help you continue to draw with the passive. You have Lady Liadrin with 35 health passive. Liadrin's Champion, after you cast a spell on a friendly minion, draw a card. It costs 2 less once per turn. Hero Power Patience, 0 mana, refresh your mana crystals. Lock this hero power for that many turns.
Depending on this deck, I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, this could be very interesting.
That once per turn
being however many you lock, however many you refresh, presumably. So
yes, that once per turn has the aura of something that they had to add because it was totally broken when they tried it.
That sounds about right. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of cheap cards that you can play on your minions that you can, yeah. I mean, especially if they did like the priest card that gives you the 2/0 cost heals in the deck, that could be, that could get out of hand pretty quick. I don't know if they did that or not. I'm just saying if they did. Because if priest gets paladin cards, why wouldn't paladin get priest cards?
Yeah.
You have Sargeras the Destroyer, 35 health, passive, the end is nigh. At the start of your turn, shuffle a 10 cost spell that deals 30 damage into your deck. And Hero Power of Twisting Nether that costs 3 mana, destroy all minions, but only usable once. That's pretty cool. I mean, you have basically a Twisting Nether you can pull on demand, but also there's going to be some interesting back and forth around baiting that out and getting them to use that earlier than they would like. So that'll be pretty cool. Elitor Champion has 35 health with the passive Keep on Rocking, all in caps, of course. At the end of your turn, give a random taunt minion in your hand +2/+2. Hero Power Riffraff, 1 mana, get a 2/1 rocker with taunt, finale, summon it. So that'll be interesting, though that has kind of anti-synergy with the passive to some extent. But also if you're playing that with not finale, then you probably can just play it for the 1 mana, so it's fine. It shouldn't matter.
You probably have a ton of taunt minions in your deck, so you'll always have something to hit, presumably.
Yep. Halveria Dark Raven as the passive is 35 health. The passive Outcast Anthem. Left and right most cards in your hand cost 1 less. Hero Power Song of Angst, 1 mana. Choose a minion. It takes 1 extra damage from all sources this turn. So that's a pretty cool effect. And having Outcast Matters things, I'm sure there will be a lot of Outcast cards in that deck as well. Your boy Heartbreaker Hadanis Magesa. 35 health with passive Starstruck. Whenever a minion enters your hand, give it -2 attack and reduce its cost by 1. And Hero Power, Captive Audience, 2 mana, give a minion +2/+2, and if it is silenced, draw a card.
I am so curious what this deck list is.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be some sort of a Silence Priest.
Whenever they've tried to do a Silence Priest, I have always given it a try. I was, like, the one time that I ever made a salty Hearthstone post on Reddit, well before I was a content creator, was the Purify thing. I was salty about that. If you didn't play back then, Priest was not doing super well, and they gave it a 2-mana card that silenced a friendly minion, and I think drew a card or something.
Yeah.
And people were not thrilled. We'll just put it that way. So, but when they have tried, I did Selfish Shellfish in Nathria? No, it was in Sunken City, but it was playable in Nathria, sort of, maybe, for a minute when Nathria first dropped. I definitely played that. So I am curious what this deck list is.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, possibly in the Chinese proverb sense, but we'll see. Thorn Stormlord, 35 health, passive Titanic Surge. Your totems have +2 attack wherever they are. Hero Power, Harness the Storm, 1 mana, summon a basic totem, summon 2 if you're overloaded. So definitely totem shaman things clearly. We'll see what that looks like. Queen Ajara, 35 health, passive Shifting Tides. After you play a spell, refresh a mana crystal and switch to Naga. Also swapped your hero power, so you're doing Naga spell things. Hero Power, command Naga, 1 mana, get a Naga that costs 3 or less. Shifting Tide swaps this. Command Magic, 1 mana, get a spell that costs 3 or less. Shifting Tide swaps this. So yes, if you would just like to keep doing things until they die, this seems like it's going to be the deck for you. And then finally, Tamsin Rome, 30 health, not 35. Passive Perfume Phylactery. You have 2 lives. After you die, your hero power deals damage instead of summoning a demon. So your hero powers are Blood Pact, 2 mana, take 1 damage, summon a 1/1 demon, increases each turn. And then Soulbound is take 1 damage, deal 1 damage, increases each turn. So that'll be it sounds like Quest Warlock, but probably not with the quest. So we'll have to see what that looks like, but that'll be pretty interesting too. So there's some interesting things going on there. I would imagine we'll probably see the list next week, so we can probably talk about those next week, because that'll be close to when the season starts. So hopefully we'll know about that a little bit closer to when the season starts. But interested to see what those deck lists look like when they come out. So they made an update to Disenchanting diamond cards. So starting with patch 29.6, most diamond cards will be able to be disenchanted for the same value as though they were golden cards. As with other card qualities, the diamond cards that won't be able to be disenchanted are the ones that are specially granted, like those in the rewards tracker, including a golden mini set. As with signature cards, diamond cards still won't be able to be crafted to keep them exciting and special. So if you have a diamond card that you bought and you somehow came into ownership of that wasn't granted through a rewards track, so I think you would have had to buy it, then you can dust it.
So like if you have Diamond Hearth and you prefer Golden Hearth from that bundle where you got both, you can finally dust that Diamond Hearth. Presumably,
yes.
It's pretty specific.
It's very specific, but if it's important to you, it's important to you. So it is what it is. And then we got a couple of system updates that have been a little bit. One of them's been pretty. I don't know if it's been controversial, but it's certainly been confusing to some folks. So we'll talk through the matchmaking update. That previously matchmaking on the rank ladder was based on your internal rating, commonly called MMR, when you had bonus stars, and based on ladder rank after you ran out of bonus stars. So in other words, while you have a star multiplier, while it still says X2 to X whatever, you're playing against other people that are at your rating or your MMR. Once you get to, say, Diamond 5, if you're 10X, then you are only playing against other people who are between Diamond 5 and Diamond 1 and around your same rank, if possible. regardless of what their actual rating is. So someone like me, on the months where I miss 11x, I'm usually very high up on, the 10x ranks. I could be playing against somebody who is just gotten to Diamond 5 for the first time. And that is probably, not to inflate my own opinion of myself, but that is probably not a particularly fair match when that happens, even just because we happen to be at the same rank in at that point in the month. So now matchmaking will continue to be based on your internal rating even after you run out of Bota stars. This change should reduce matchmaking complexity and result in more consistent and fairer matches throughout the ladder. So regardless of where you are, you will always be playing against somebody who's around where your rating is, which means that if you are somebody who is at the high end or the low end of a star multiplier, like you just barely get to Diamond 5 every month, or you just barely missed 11x, right? You should be playing against people who are at your skill level the whole time, and not see a significant change when you get to, say, Diamond 5.
And you could be facing people who are in Legend when you're not in Legend. You won't be able to see whether that's happening if you're not in Legend, but the Legend player will be able to see it. If you're in Legend and it suddenly shows you that you're playing against somebody who's like Gold 3, especially if it's early in the month, like that just means that somebody hasn't played before you got to Legend, and who is about at the same rank as you, not rank, but MMR as you, and they just maybe haven't played for the first week of the month and they're at Gold 3. Or whatever it is. So this also means, I think, you could be, previously, if you weren't 11x and you're at like D1, you were mostly facing other people who were tryharding to get that last couple wins up to Legend. Now you might be facing people who already reached Legend and now they're messing around.
Yeah,
with
that happened to me because I saw some really, really weird stuff and I was so confused. Because, as you say, I'm used to facing the like really try hard things at that point. And I was like, what is any of this stuff that I'm facing? I'm so confused. And, worked out great. We finished the climb.
Yeah. I mean, you just effing kill them, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so, that's what you do. But yeah, so like if you do see like, it used to be like with the old system, like I would know when I'd really tanked my rank when I started seeing like Diamond 1 players. And that will happen probably more, but it doesn't necessarily mean that your rank is, declining as much as it is that you're playing against other people who have just been climbing later. Mm-hmm. So just be aware of that, especially if you're at Legend, that you will see that. It doesn't mean that you're gatekeeping some poor, gold 3 player. Sorry, Thailand, if I'm picking on you a little bit because of the conversation in the Discord, but I think that it's good to talk about this because it's going to be a change, but the games will still be more fair. And just because you're playing against somebody who looks like they're at a significantly lower rank than you're not stomping on them. You're just being matched up against them because that's where they are in the month, because rank pre-Legend is a function of skill plus time. Whereas rank at post-Legend is really just, your win-losses at Legend.
And if, this will update if you are, say, 8x, 9x, and winning a lot, your MMR is going to get higher. So you might still face harder opponents when you get to D5 through D1 if you've been winning a lot more than usual to get there. That means your MMR has actually been rising in the background. So your opponents will be rising in the background if you're winning a lot more than usual. So I don't think it's necessarily like the same ease of getting... The main concern that I think people have had about this, that's not just based on not understanding where it was, is does this make it harder for, say, like a 10x player to get from D5 to D1 and easier for like a 9x player to get from D5 to D1? And ultimately we'll have to see what people's experiences are climbing. But one, I think if you're climbing D5 to D1 because you're beating up on players who have maybe gotten to this place for the first time and then aren't really ready for this milieu, like we don't want to take players who are playing a lot more so they're climbing more to then have the experience of then just getting decimated once they hit certain ranks. On the other hand, like the experience that Edel had, you're not only facing people who are tryharding at D1 anymore. You're also facing people at your skill level who are not tryharding at D1. So that may actually go a long way towards helping get through that D5 to D1.
Or not. I mean, it's sometimes it's if you're in a groove and you're playing against like a small number of decks and all of a sudden you're D1 and you're seeing like, oh my God, what the hell are they doing? Right. Especially if you're like a control deck, that sometimes it can be negative. So, but I mean, it's just, there's not really any way to tell, but in general, it should make a smoother experience.
Yeah. It is possible that it's impossible to say like this will never make it harder to get from one place to another. It might, but overall, it's just meaning that people are being matched more fairly to people of their skill level. Another major benefit should be for people at lower MMRs. This should really help them not run into bots. The idea is bots, rank, and MMR are vastly different. There was a tweet from Celestalon around this, where was for humans, even in the previous system, mostly the rank more or less matched the MMR from like D5 to D1 or wherever it was. And so you're not going to be matched now against vastly different human players than before. But bots play just like so many games but so poorly, generally, that their MMR and their rank is just not reflective of each other. And so now you'll be a lot less likely to run into those bots just because you're climbing a little bit farther and you ran out of stars. A lot of people would have the experience of not hitting bots, they run out of stars, suddenly it's bot city. So this should help with that.
They also changed the passive XP that you get from just playing games. So this is also to combat bots and probably the people who are still, even despite the mercenaries changes, still farming XP in mercenaries by idling. So extended periods of inactivity will now reward less XP. This change will not impact players taking normal game actions on their turns, such as playing cards, making attacks, or even just hitting the end turn button. So most players won't see a change in their XP earned, just fewer bots wasting their time. And this is because a lot of the bots were programmed to take the full 75 seconds for every turn and then press end turn at the very end of the turn just to keep the rope from burning more quickly on the following turn. So this should reduce the incentive for those people who are running bots to make them, hopefully, I mean, you try everything you possibly can and hope some of it sticks with the bot players, but they'll figure something else out, I'm sure, because that is just the eternal struggle at this point. But I'm glad the team is trying whatever they can. And so we have some bug fixes and game improvements. One that has been fairly significant if you're playing Twist is that the sigils that are getting cast from things like Jotun and Test Greymane, but particularly Jotun if you're playing the Illidan deck, they didn't stack if they were being replayed by those. So if you had, say, 2 sigils of time, or you had a sigil of time that was cast by Jotun, it wouldn't stack if you played it. It would just vanish. So that's going to be fixed. They made Khadgar's Magic Wisdom Ball more helpful in cases where all enemy characters are unable to be targeted. They fixed some freezes with Boom Wrench. They fixed a bug where TNT's copied by Jotun, the Eternals effect would hit the enemy side instead of Jotun's side. I would argue that's a feature, but what am I to say? And there's a number of other bugs. There's a lot of bugs in these fixed. A lot of them are kind of cosmetic. They fixed a bug where Arcanite Reaper's effect will only trigger once when dealt damage and healed at the same time. That's fairly significant. And a very important bug that they fixed is that they fixed a bug where a banana couldn't have a funny mustache, and a related bug where Ramornia's Living Blade's weapon form couldn't have a funny mustache. So I am very glad that was there. There also was apparently an engine update because they updated minimum specifications to require 64-bit support, which really should not be a problem with any modern computer at this point, but just be aware if you're playing on some like ancient Chromebook or something like that could sometimes come back to bite you. There are some known issues, as there are with any new patch. Some of them are more significant than others. Hearthstone Brew has gotten his iconic hands confused. The team is looking into it. I don't know if those are out of order for Demon Hunter again or whatnot.
It's like weirdly not all the right cards are there, and there's like 2 of some of them. It's very strange. So if you're playing Hearth, you might get something unexpected. Just keep that in mind. And if your opponent plays Hearth, they might have something unexpected.
Yeah. In Arena, you can be offered the same card multiple times in the same draft pick. So that's going to be fixed in a hot fix that, obviously reduces your choices. So that's no good. There are shop closures for players in EU. So that's being looked at as well. The Boulder Fist Ogre Warrior hero skin doesn't work with Baku and Genn, which is terrible for cost. So, okay. And Dollar and Heist and Tombs of Terror, mostly broken. They're looking at that. And one that I've run into, I'm sure you probably run into it also, Magay says that if you're playing in full screen on a Mac and you switch windows, the client freezes.
Oh.
Yes, I found this out yesterday. I knew this had happened, and I was playing yesterday. I was playing Battlegrounds on the couch yesterday, and I had just done the 3-finger swipe back over to another desktop, and then went back, and then, well, wait, why hasn't my turn started? Oh, wait, it's next turn now, but the client froze. I didn't win that game. So just be aware of that. If you're playing on a Mac, you can get around this by playing in windowed mode. So it's only affecting full screen. If you're in window mode, this doesn't happen. Can confirm. Did test it myself.
Yeah, can confirm. I switch tabbing around, switching desktop windows, different things all the time. I try to focus on the game, but I haven't had it freeze while I've been playing in windowed mode. So, and it still works fine with the deck tracker in windowed mode. So don't worry.
Or if you're trying to practice being mindful, this will super make sure you don't flip out of the screen. So that's it. The only other major news, there were also some shop updates. We're not even going to go into them, except that there's a new Demon Priest skin. Very good. Demon Sally. Get that. And there's a legendary Illidan skin that transforms at a certain point. Those are both very good. I haven't bought the Diamond Sally skin, but I'm going to, because it's a Sally skin and I'm going to buy it. There also was a number of Twist health updates. King Crush has gone up from 50 to 55. Illidan's down from 40 to 37. Nozdormu is going from 30 to 32. Omu's gone down from 30 to 28. Lich King down from 25 to 23. Zul'jin from 30 to 28. And Alakir the Windlord from 25 to 24. I feel like I'm reading the weather report when talking about this. And just as a reminder, they say in this update, just a reminder, non-health updates like Dex Hero powers and passes will be going into our normal balance windows, the first of which is scheduled to be patch 29.6.2, which is the next balance patch. So keep your eyes out for that. And I think, oh, no, it's not all the news, because we have some important news of our own, which is that we will have a card reveal on July 3rd. So they have posted the schedule of card reveals. We will have that revealed on July 3rd. We are still figuring out how we're going to do that, because that's not a night that we normally record. And also I'm going to be away and I'm the one who runs the stream. So we are going to figure out exactly where you're going to find that. But we have detailed information about that next week when we record, because we will have figured it out next week. If it kills me, we will have it figured out.
And the card library will have a link to the correct place on July 3rd.
Yes.
Never fear.
Once we figure out which correct place that is.
Yeah.
But we do not only have news, but we also have several tournaments, because when it rains, it pours.
It's the grand tournament.
So I'm going to do this fairly quickly, just so we can get to cards. We, of course, had week 4 of the Concede Listeners series. Handbuff Paladin remains on top in terms of popularity, followed by Zari Priest coming in second, and Shopper DH stepping up into third place. Insanity Warlock dropped in popularity, rip our Decksplanations, replaced by Painlock. And Diefenberg and Wild9 bravely remained on Whizbang, which honestly, if it were me, I just would not want to bother with submitting new stuff every week. So it's an easy, just here's a lineup. Sometimes I'll get the right stuff.
Some people enjoy building lineups, you know.
I do when I don't have a kid. I don't know. It's gotten harder to put time into those kinds of things. I don't know. If there were qualification tournaments again, rather than qualify through ladder, I would be interested. But anyway, in terms of results, we had Jolt C remaining undefeated at 4-0, Y the Hunter and SSJ5 Goku, Arepipol, Dirus Bear, World 8, Probiwan, and Pilot are rounding out the top 8 after week 4. So congrats to all of those in that top 8. Highlights, Pilot on Wishing Well Rogue versus Glacier on Zorimi Priest. Glacier did exactly what Zorimi Priest is supposed to do, play and copy Wranglers, summon and maintain a full board of Dragons and Drifters from turn 5, and drop Zorimi Red on turn 7. But the magic of Wishing Well was with Pilot that game. So among the legendaries Pilot generated were a Cenarius to buff a board of Bounty Wranglers and Discovered Trolleys, as well as Hodir, which buffed to 8/8 a bounced trolley, an active Velarok, and Sonya. Glacier didn't have quite enough for lethal on the Zorimi turn, and just had to expend the board trying to clear. It was not enough. So, yeah.
Rogue's gonna rogue.
You talk about when it rains, it pours. That's a lot of nice Wishing Well legendaries. But we actually have another event going on. Hasn't happened yet, but will have by the time you're hearing this, if you're not a patron getting the immediate drop of the raw audio. There's a streamer event going on in China where they've invited a number of folks, I believe 16 in total, right?
Yes.
So. Yes.
There are 16. There are 16. Well, there are 15 people and one cartoon character in the picture from the event. So
well,
yeah.
Most of the streamers will be streaming their perspective on their respective channels, where you can find VODs if you don't catch it live. In terms of competitors, from NA or EU, we have Baby Bear, Pocket Train, Bunny Hopper, and Tice, and they are joining Shouty, SSQ, Tsu, XC, ML Yanming, X-Hope, Sif, LVGE, Jukonyu. I'm sorry, I don't speak anything close to Mandarin or Cantonese, so Tang 36, Tantao, and Xiabugu. So it's got some deck building restrictions, which I love. No Ziliax, Reno, Bran, or Boom Boss, thank goodness, as decided by votes from the Chinese community. Good on you, Chinese community. Well selected. And then one deck must include Marin, and one must include Genn or Baku. Now, in terms of lineups, Pocket posted all the lineups. Most popular deck list at 12, Excavate Rogue, followed by Hand of Paladin at 9, Chopper DH at 7, Rainbow DK at 6, and see, here's the thing. That Genn or Baku situation, only 6 people did the assignment. There are 5 even warlocks and 1 odd warrior, and everyone else just put again in something. You have 3 people put Genn in Excavate Rogue, 5 people put Genn in Hand Buff Paladin, and when I tell you this, I don't mean they made an even Excavate Rogue or an even Hand Buff Paladin. I mean they're just like, I guess a 6/5 is not that bad. So people are gonna try hard in an invitational, but it is kind of sad when you try and set up an event like this to encourage diverse deck building compared to what people are usually seeing on ladder, and people are just like, I will run this vanilla 6/5 with no additional text in my pain lock, 2 of the 3 pain locks. So
see, if I was doing it, I would just say, okay, you can only run Baku. So then at least if you're not making an odd deck, then you're putting a 9 mana 7/9 in your deck. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the reason that everyone picked Genn is because if you're going to pick one of two cards to be a dead card or something I guess you can play sometimes, Genn is the one to pick. So I'm very disappointed in everyone except for the 5 even warlocks and the 1 odd warrior. But should be fun. Marin isn't even really a drawback. I mean, that's just a pretty solid card. So the players asked for clarification multiple times, apparently, on whether they could do that, whether it actually had to be an even deck or they just had to include the card. It is, conquest and not last hero standing, so makes it harder to bring a deck that you think sucks, to which I say, y'all are not ambitious in your deck building. People are not trying stuff. People are not trying odd Demon Hunter. Come on. But anyway. So, yeah, that's that. And then I have something here, Tavern Training Tournament.
Yeah, so we don't have much information about this so far. This sounds like an expansion of what they were doing right before Whizbang's Workshop came out, where they had all those YouTube videos like the weekend before theory crafting from people who are outside the community learning, like playing with the decks for the first time. This is going to be some sort of a tournament. It's going to run from June 20th to July 26th, where they're going to be players who are streamers from outside of the Hearthstone community who aren't Hearthstone players. They're going to be paired up with a pro, and then they're going to train them. The pros are going to train them up, and then there's going to be a tournament of these non-Hearthstone streamers towards the end of that. I don't know if that's going to be when the tournament is, or if it's going to be like over this course of the weeks, or it's going to be, we're going to see all the training videos over the course of the weeks, and they're going to have a tournament at the end of it. We're still waiting for more information, but that should be fun, especially depending on who they pick. I hope that Voxy is part of it.
I was just going to say, is this really just, is Hat doing everything he can to bring Voxy in? Just like...
I mean, if he really wanted to do that, he would have lobbied for Weasel Tunneler to get back in the core.
Oh, it just seems like a contrivance to just like, what can we come up with to make Voxy do some Hearthstone?
Yeah.
Anyway, so look forward to that again, June 20th to July 26th. So quite a expansive time frame there. But it's the moment you've all been waiting for. We've got cards to talk about. So, I guess take us away.
All right, so we have quite a few cards. Some of them we've already talked about a little bit if they were part of the announcement, but we're going to go through starting with neutral, and then we'll talk a little bit, especially if we haven't mentioned it as much yet, about some of the class cards that we have revealed. Overall, the reveal schedule, except for the announce, always includes some class cards, but in general, as usual, we'll have neutrals first, followed by class cards, and this time, because of the tourist mechanic, the classes will be revealed in the order of the tourists so that you'll be able to see what you're getting from your tourist, which is awesome. So there is in the announcement blog, there is a graphic with that order, as well as you can always check the card library for exactly when cards are going to drop. And you can see all of the cards in the card library, or in our Discord, we maintain a channel just with all of the cards, images, and text for those who prefer or need text. So we already talked about Marin, otherwise known as Marin. Ugh. Every time. Okay, Marin the manager, we already talked about. So I think we can talk some about AFK, a 5-mana 0/5 legendary. At the end of your turn, give all other friendly minions that didn't attack +2/+2, which we could kind of tell from the video must have gotten nerfed at the last second from +3/+3 to +2/+2.
It does seem a bit excessive at +3/+3. So, I mean, this is the most appropriate time for AFK to get her own card, because this is the first time, like, she's been a character in like Dungeon Run. She's obviously been a character in Battlegrounds since the beginning. This is the first time she's actually had a Hearthstone card. And what better time than the vacation lounging around expansion for her to get that? And I mean, we've know from like, what is it, Astral Serpent, the one that there's the Paladin dragon that if it hasn't attacked this turn, you draw 2 cards.
Yep.
Like, you will get that just from summoning the minions, right? So like if you have a deck, like a token deck or like a death rattle deck that summons a bunch of tokens when minions trade off and die. So like mining casualties, that sort of thing. You will get the +2/+2 on the minions that are summoned off of those. Mining casualties is a bad example because those are the ghouls that die, but whatever. But there's a lot of power in that if you are a deck that can summon minions alongside playing a 5-mana 0/5.
And if they don't clear it, they're definitely in trouble because then everything you play the next turn gets buffed. I'm thinking if there's ever any kind of like shaman with totems, or even just those like little 0/1 frogs from Pop-Up Book.
Yeah.
And then suddenly,
oh yeah,
that goes quite
those
nicely.
are 2/3s.
Well, or if you've got Holiday's weapon equipped and you just go turn 6 AFK, attack with the weapon, play Pop-Up Book, and you're buffing 3 minions by +2/+2. That's pretty great.
They all have taunt and protect her.
Yeah, so that could be scary in the right deck. It's an interesting card, especially as a neutral legendary.
You don't get to attack with them immediately buffed, so it's not like terrifying, but it seems potentially powerful. So
yeah, it's not a bloodlust. That definitely seems on purpose, and I like, as Wicked has mentioned in the past, a neutral legendary that seems like it might fit in more than one class, but it's not an every deck kind of card that we're going to be sick of on day 2.
Like Marin, yeah.
Like Marin, potentially. The other neutral legendary that we have seen is Gorgonzormu. Someone in the Discord pointed out that none of the cheese here looks like Gorgonzola. It is, apparently this is a character from WoW.
I actually did research, and I know the lore for this card.
Oh.
So this was something that was introduced, I believe, in one of the last expansions. It was relatively recent. And what happens is that it's a dragon that's one of the time dragons like Chromie, and it has a cheese shop, and it would send the cheese forward in time to age it.
Oh, that's amazing.
And he is delightful, and Sarge is on a little piece of cheese in the art. And the card, it's a 3-mana 3/3 dragon. Battle Cry, get a 2-cost cheese that summons 3 1-cost minions. It upgrades each turn. So the 2-mana cost stays the same. But each turn that you hold on to this, the mana cost of the minions that you're summoning goes up. So if you play it right away, you get 3 1/1s. If you wait, you get 3 2/2s, still for 2 mana. Or 3 3/3s, still for 2 mana.
So, I mean, if you play this on 3, you can just turn 4, have 3 2-cost minions. That seems pretty good.
I mean, if you're playing this, or if you're playing this like on 5, right, then it's like a slightly worse boogie down.
Yeah, I mean, it seems solid for go wide decks.
And it's a dragon, which is very important for Zarimi Priest. And as someone pointed out, you wait until the Zarimi turn, which is usually on 7 or 8. You've been holding this since turn 3. You finally have charge with Zarimi, sort of. So
yeah, that will have aged nicely. Yeah, that sure will have. Yeah,
I don't want these.
At some point, this may turn into the non-game Gaslight Rogue, and then something will have to be done. I usually coast on the fact that the fast priest decks aren't popular enough to get nerfed, which is great. So on the one hand, I want y'all to play it because I love fast priest decks, and you should love them too. But also, it's okay if you don't, because then it flies under the radar and nobody nerfs it.
It does sound like Edel is fed up. So
Zarimi plus 3 5-cost minions is really scary on turn 7.
It definitely does not seem Gouda.
No.
I have a very quick Gorgonzola story that is like the only thing that I ever think of when someone mentions that cheese, is that when I was like 9, we went to Amsterdam, and our first night there, we were terribly jet lagged. We just walked into the first restaurant we saw because we wanted food and then go to bed. And we ended up in like the only place in the Netherlands where they didn't really speak English very well. And I cannot judge because I only speak English. But I've noticed a lot of Dutch people speak excellent English, not the waiter wherever we were. And we didn't really understand the menu, but my parents saw the word pizza. So they're like, great, our 9-year-old children will love this pizza. Not only did it have broccoli, it had Gorgonzola cheese. So we were not. It was a bad first impression of Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Amsterdam is great, and it overcame that bad first impression. We had a great vacation. It was awesome. But Gorgonzola does not belong on pizzas. I'm sorry.
Yeah. This is also the second Gorgonzola pun that's on a Hearthstone card, because the first one is Zola the Gorgon.
Yep.
Which most people don't know.
I did not know that until very recently.
Oh boy. I clocked that pretty quick. But I don't know if we're wanting to just do like legendaries and new keywords, or...
Yeah, we can kind of blow past the rest of these. I mean, we could just kind of mention them and then move on. I mean, there's a couple of things that just kind of like, there's a lot of locations. So we have Travel Agent that's 2 mana 2/2 that discovers location for any class. Fine. Weapons Attendant is a 6 mana 6/4 pirate with Battlecry. If you control another pirate, equip a random weapon from your deck. So obviously, if you're doing raiding party things, then that's something that you could consider. Also, Drink Server is a 2 mana 2/2 Murloc pirate. With Death Rattle, get a random drink spell. So again, we have drinks, so we have a Drink Server. We have to talk about my favorite card in the set, though, which is Customs Enforcer, which is a 3 mana 2/5 that says screw Excavate Rogue. No, sorry, it says it says enemy cards that didn't start in their deck cost 2 more.
And it's a pirate.
It's a pirate. This is a tech card, but this is a tech card that can have fairly wide-ranging applications because there are so many cards that are generated that it's probably going to get at least a couple of hits if it gets down, and it's got 5 butt. So I think this is one that could be... I mean, first of all, it's probably my my early winner for card I can't wait to play with, but also it's, there are so many decks that even if they're not just generating random nonsense as a thesis statement, they're just doing it that, you'll get some value out of this. It's kind of like a Cult Neophyte in a way.
And I assume that it would also work for cards out of ETC, if there's anything in particular that you're worried about coming out of the ETC. As well as Priest stealing cards.
Yep.
This would work against them.
Start in the deck. Yep.
Pip duplicating stuff. Suddenly it's not 1 mana anymore, so that makes it a lot worse.
Yep.
It does not have tradable, is my only concern on it, but there are a lot of use cases for it. And if you have pirate synergy in your deck, then that might be helpful. And we're certainly expecting a lot of pirates, because pirates run the resort.
Yes.
So... I do think
we have
this
pirates
card...
in classes that don't normally get pirates, so we haven't had that since like I think it was the Stormwind mini set, which it was in Badlands. So with where we got the new Edwin and all the other pirates. So yeah, we're gonna get a lot of pirates. And I do have a sense that this card is going to be something that gets a little overplayed if something like Excavate Rogue is popular. But you know what? If you're just so tilted by the Excavate Rogues, you have to play this. Understood. If you are an Excavate Rogue player and you're running into a ton of this, we'll have to see. We like to brag on Excavate Rogue on this podcast, but I will say I do know that it is a deck that has a lot of variety. It is a lot of skill for the pilot. It is just very frustrating to not know what you're playing against. But there is a lot of skill in picking what you're playing with as the Excavate Rogue pilot. So I do want to acknowledge you Excavate Rogue players who listen to this show still. Yes, and some people like me just hate fun, so that's also valid. So we have Bumbling Bellhop, which is an undead pirate, 3 mana 3/3 with taunt. Battlecry. If you're holding a spell that costs 5 or more, summon a copy of this. So it would be a way for big spell type decks to get a little bit of defense.
Yeah, it might be good if we ever end up with a Wish Upon a Star Shaman, or Hand Buff Paladin does sometimes run Keeper Strength. You might want to also run like Prismatic Beam or something if you're running this, but it is great if you hand buff it. So that might be an option. There's also Carry On Grub, 4 mana, 5/4 beast.
Oh God, I love this card. First of all, I love the art. It's adorable. It's the most adorable grub I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I'll go with the most adorable grub I've ever seen in my life. I don't know if I'll go with adorable in an absolute sense, but in a relative sense, definitely.
I am a broken human, so we'll take that into account.
So the Carry On Grub is a 4 mana 5/4 beast. Battle Cry, get a 1-cost suitcase. Pack the top 2 cards of your deck into it. So the suitcase is a 1 mana spell that says get another card and another card. So the cards that you drew get put into the suitcase. You get them back when you play the suitcase.
Yeah. Presumably another card and another card changed the names of the cards that you packed.
Actually packed. Yes, you can actually see what you're going to get. It is not a surprise suitcase. So that helps a lot. And I think for any deck that needs draw, which potentially Hunter, potentially some Priest decks could use some draw, you don't necessarily mind paying an extra mana when you want the card to, and you don't have to play the mana the turn you're playing the card. You could play it the turn before if you want. So it is draw, and there are some classes that might be able to copy the Carry On suitcase or benefit from playing a spell, or like Sonya or something like that. So there might actually be situations where having a 1-cost spell that you have to play to get your cards is actually beneficial.
And I mean, like, we played Famished Fool for 2 years, right? Which was 5 mana. Granted, it was draw 3, not draw 2, but that was a pretty big restriction put on it with Infuse 4. And this is just unconditional 5 mana, 5/4, draw 2, right? That's pretty good. That's probably good enough to make it into a lot of decks that are lacking for draw. Like, especially, you would play that in Seremi Priest right now.
Probably. And I would certainly play it in, if I was going to do any other type of, like, an overheal, I'd probably try to see if I could fit this in. Because I love copies of stuff in that deck. And I have Pip, and I have when 1 mana cards discount the Drifters, and I really need draw that isn't Clergy. So yeah, that all sounds good. And 4 mana 5/4 is not terrible stats. That is,
yeah, they're reasonable
full stats for 4 mana. So
I mean, that's original school teacher stats. Like, that's fine, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And school teacher also gave you a 1 mana thing that did something. Now, granted, you didn't have to pay for the spell that came out of the 1 mana Nuggling, but so I don't think this is quite school teacher. But you're
also drawing 2. You're getting 2 cards out of your deck as opposed to a random spell that, or discovering a spell that's just, out of the ether, which cards in your deck are generally better than cards you discover for the most part. So
yes.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for these cards, but so we should talk about Death Knight. We mentioned Buttons is the tourist legendary for Death Knight, 5 mana 5/5 undead. Shaman tourist, Battlecry, draw a spell of each spell school. Maybe we should talk about him in terms of the Shaman cards and then come back to Corpsicle.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably end up talking about him anyway, just because we'll be talking about Shaman still, and we're probably talking about him more when we see the Shaman cards.
Okay, so let's
maybe
briefly
that's gonna be something that we'll come back to him probably next week or the week after. But yeah. But
so let's just talk Corpsicle then. So Corpsicle, 2 mana frost spell with 1 frost rune. Deal 3 damage. Spend 3 corpses to return this to your hand at the end of your turn. It spends corpses. It keeps doing damage face. You get more of them. Little bit like a Frozen Touch.
Yeah, it's like what was that rogue spell? Head crack. That if
man. That was it was bad though, and this seems
was
quite
bad,
good.
but it was 2 damage. It was 2 damage, not 3, and I think that was 2 damage just the enemy opponent, not to a target.
Yeah, it was. It was 2 damage to enemy face. It cost 3 mana, and I believe it was like if you comboed it, it returns to your hand or something.
Yeah. So this is strictly better than that.
Yes.
But it is recursive burn that you can keep playing, and it's also a corpse spender that can start fueling your CNE or whatever else you need to fuel, or your giants or whatever. I'm
bummed that this won't be around while Genn is, because this would be like the perfect kind of thing. One thing I found building an even Rainbow DK was that I could generate a lot of corpses, but a lot of the corpse spenders were actually odd cost.
Yeah.
So this would be, just the perfect thing to go in there. And I think it'll still be good in a normal Rainbow DK. Maybe you can go a little more aggressive in terms of how you build Rainbow DK. You run like this, and the forage card that you would just not forage, so you can spend the corpses to deal damage and be like kind of a more sort of burn Rainbow DK.
That sounds like my kind of Rainbow DK. Yeah. And then the CNA is really the finisher. So I think we'll have to see the rest of the Death Knight set, but this feels like a powerful card even in existing decks. We have Druid, which has, we talked about the location, hiking trail, discover a top minion after you gain armor, reopen this. There was also a legendary, Cruise Captain Laura, 7 mana 4/5 pirate, Battlecry, summon 2 random locations. Wicked, I know you have opinions about this card.
This is so bad. This is such a bad card. I am excited for people to play this because it is just, I mean, like, we haven't had like a clear, unless we have some real strong locations matter cards in this set, like better than what was it, the one that would like discover a copy of a card if you had a location from Nathria. It would like discover a copy of a card in your deck if you had a location out, and even that was pretty bad.
A dispossessed spirit or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Like, because all I've seen on Twitter today was, oh, there's going to be more puppet theaters and more Prisons of Yogg-Saron. And it's like, first of all, you could just put Prison of Yogg-Saron in your deck for 7 mana, and then you know you will get Prison of Yogg-Saron, and that will be better than this, because this is going to give you 2 locations. There are a lot of locations that I wouldn't say are necessarily bad, but they're build-arounds.
Sanguine Depths.
Sanguine Depths is probably better than Jungle Gym if you're not building around it. Just because, like, Jungle Gym, if you don't build around it, that's press the button to deal 1 damage to a random target. That is not good, right? And it's going to be on your board for at least 3 turns. Like, any of these locations are going to be on your board for at least 3 turns, because you're going to press the button that turn. You're going to wait for them to open. I guess except for the ones that can open early, but most of them are going to be on the board for at least 3 turns. Like, you know, what was the one that was, Mosh Pit, spend 3 corpses to give a friendly minion reborn, or Crimson Expanse, which is the Hunter Warrior one. Choose a damaged minion, summon a copy of it that goes dormant for 1 turn, right? Like, they're not bad things, but they're a lot worse when you're not building around them, and you're just going to get 2 random ones. We're going to get 6 locations in this set, right? So we already had 13, and so we're going to get 6 more, which is 19. Though I don't love those odds. And for a 7 mana 4/5, if you whiff on this, you're going to be very, very sad.
What you do is you play this before you expect the Reno, so that they're like, do I use the Reno on this, or do I keep them board locked?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the best possible roll is Muck Pools, because then you get an actual 8-drop, but that's only going to happen, 10% of the time, roughly. So maybe that makes it better, but probably not.
We will have to see whether there's really strong location matter things in Druid, because I think, yes, that is what we would need to have.
Yeah.
So, willing to be convinced, but we'll have to see on that.
Yeah.
All right, Paladin. I love this legendary. We don't really know what goes with it yet very much, but Sunsapper Linessa, 5 mana 2/6 Rogue Taurus. Your spells that cost 2 or less cast twice. So we are playing Paladin, presumably meaning that has minions, but we're also slinging cards. I'm in for it. The only rogue card that we know that might go with Sunsapper Linessa is Petty Theft, which is a 2 mana common spell, get 2 random 1-cost spells from other classes. So if you play this with Sunsapper Linessa, you're getting 4 1-cost spells from other classes.
Which you can then cast.
Nice. You can then cast twice. Each.
Yeah. Seems
so, yeah.
cute. I want to see the stuff that actually might win games.
That
Yes,
is true.
I'm not looking for. I'm hoping that there's better stuff than this. That we're not turning Paladin into another Excavate Rogue. I'm hoping that's not what we're doing.
Oh, you can play Excavate spells.
Yeah, all the Excavate treasures. Yeah,
at 1 and 2, right?
yeah. If you're getting spells off the Excavates, right? Some of them are minions.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We also have a weapon for Paladin, 3 mana, 3/2 Volley Maul. After your hero attacks, get a 1-cost sunscreen that gives +1/+2. Or it'll cast twice if you have a Sunsap or a Linessa up. So you get a couple of sunscreens. This would be so great in Zarimi. I have a bit of a one-track mind at the moment. I'm sorry. So, I mean, mostly Paladin right now is doing hand buff things, and so the weapon, you can't really run other weapons. So this is a different deck, I think, pretty clearly.
I know they're not going to be, but I wish they were holy spells, because that's the other thing that Paladin kind of got a little support from out of the mini set, and there's just not a whole lot going on with holy spells at the moment. So we'll see.
The
if maybe
Sunset for Linessa could work well, though, with like discounting that holy giant, whatever it's called.
The Paladin Gigantify card, yeah.
The Paladin Gigantify card, exactly. So that might be something that you put into there, depending on what the rest of the rogue cards are, whether you would be wanting any of that.
You can play the cheese twice with Linessa.
Yeah.
That is a great point.
Yeah.
The Gorgon Zormu cheese.
Yeah. And Mining Casualties is also 2 mana. That's pretty good, right? I mean, if you're playing a Flood Paladin, right? Then that's still 4 bodies on the board.
Yeah.
And Hand of Adal would probably fit in there too. And that's give a minion +4/+2, draw 2. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's a couple auras that are 2 mana. Resistance aura is 2 mana, and you would get 2 of them. Inventor's aura, your mechs cost 1 less. I don't think we're getting mechs in this set, but fancy packaging, give a minion with Divine Shield +2/+3. Probably not, but possible.
yeah. I mean, it's clearly going to be the rogue spells that are going to be cheap, because I mean, if you're going based on buttons where he's drawing spell schools, like Death Knight has spell schools, like it has Frost and it has Shadow, I guess, but it doesn't really care about spell schools as much, and that's really a Shaman thing. So clearly, like, there's going to be some cheap rogue spells in this set that Paladin's going to want. We'll just have to see.
Yes. And lastly, Shaman. We had mentioned the Malted Magma drink. 2 mana fire spell, deal 1 damage to all enemies, and you can cast this 3 times. Just like
That
Bunch of
also
Bananas.
goes face, by the way. Yeah.
It does also go face. So if Shaman gets any sort of spell damage, or if Death Knight with buttons gets any sort of spell damage, then that goes face. There is also Cabaret Headliner, a 4 mana 3/3 Naga. Battle Cry, reduce the cost of a spell of each spell school in your hand by 2. And so that pairs really well with buttons, because buttons will have drawn a spell of each spell school. And then you reduce it all with Cabaret Headliner. So I'm curious if we're getting like Death Knight spell damage or something like that. And they're going to go for a burn Death Knight.
I mean, it might just be like a rainbow in the mage sense, and not spell damage, because they might be a little scared of spell damage.
That's potentially true, yeah. Because if you combine spell damage with mana reduction, we do know what happens. So
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe Shaman will be getting a spell damage card, which means it would be in both Shaman and Death Knight.
Yeah, but I mean, it also could be like a Spell Schools Matter spell damage card, right? Like these cards are clearly not meant for Nature Shaman. Like Malted Magma's a fire spell. This cares about spells of each school, which means that you're not just playing lightning, nature spells. And like Crash of Thunder works a lot worse when you're playing spells of other spell schools in your deck.
Mm-hmm.
So if this turned into a combo thing, it might be hard to get enough burn. If it's just a OTK deck, it might be that they're looking more for kind of like the burn mage that we have now. where you're just kind of consistently throwing damage, and then the Cabaret Headliner allows you to burst it a little bit more a little bit later in the game.
Yeah. And it's not just this turn, like it's going to reduce those forever, so you can just hold on to those, as long unless your opponent makes everything that didn't start in your deck cost 2 more.
Yeah. Mana reduction always makes me a little nervous, but it certainly would require spell damage to get dicey. And I don't think there's any spell damage +2 effects in neutral right now. So
I don't believe so. We don't have Silver Moon Arcanist or anything.
The tradable went out of core, right?
Yes.
Guild Trader. Yeah.
I'm looking at the spells that you might be able to discount of different like if you actually are a shaman. Other fire spells, Jam Session, if you're playing minions, is not bad. We've got other spells here that have spell schools. I mean, there's plenty of nature spells that we can all think of as that have spell schools, of course.
That's not hard to think about, yeah.
Baking Soda Volcano is a fire spell. Jive Insect is a fire spell.
Like, do they even have Frost right now?
Yeah. Wish Upon a Star is an arcane spell.
Yeah. And Incredible Value is Shadow. Not that we're looking for reasons to play that. The one Frost spell they have is Chill Vibes.
Okay. Yeah, they might be looking to diversify some of those things in this and perhaps
they're
the
not
set.
Like they don't need more nature spells anyway, right?
Right.
Like they have to if they're going to give them more spells, they can't be nature spells. We have too many as it is.
Well, I think actually more nature spells would potentially make that stuff worse because it would be more hits.
But I mean they're good or more expensive. Maybe if they made some expensive nature spells that don't make themselves cheaper. Because I mean, I guess they printed Wave of Nostalgia to try to help with that a little bit, but yeah.
Shaman is getting Demon Hunter cards. We know this from the graphic. So they might get Fell through Demon Hunter.
Yeah. So I have a feeling that a lot of the whatever Shaman's going to get is probably going to be like weapon shaman type things.
Huh.
Because that's Demon Hunter's thing, right? Is attacking with weapons. So I would expect. I mean, I'm guessing. I don't know anything.
Could be both.
I would guess that it'd be more like what do they call that? Like I forget. It's got some weird name that doesn't mean weapons. Like the specialization in WoW. I forget what the name of it is, but
the sort of odd nature of the tourist stuff is like, well, they're not actually making dual class cards, right? It's just this class gets to use all of the ones from the other classes as long as you include the specific card. So, we don't know what the shaman tourist thing is going to be because you're going to want to at least be interested in the effect and not just the cards you're pulling from the other class. But so I could imagine, maybe it could go either way in terms of, okay, you get to have Fell spells for doing your spell school stuff. Yeah. And, you get to have some attack things or weapon or whatever.
Yeah. An enhancement shaman.
Right.
That totally says that to me, that's why I couldn't remember it because it made no sense. So there you go.
Sure.
But also you'll have Frost and Shadow and in Death Knight also. So
enhancement just says to me, as someone who played the Pathfinder, which is very similar to D&D tabletop game for the past decade, there's a type of bonus called enhancement bonus, and they don't stack with each other, and like everything provides an enhancement bonus, and it's just like, oh, this thing provides a +4 bonus to dexterity. That's awesome. What type of bonus is it? Enhancement. Well, that's useless. There's no concentration in Pathfinder, so you can stack your buffs. You can just have endless buffs, and that is what you do when you play at higher levels. Anyway, that is off topic.
Yeah.
I think that actually does it for cards for us. So we will certainly have more cards for you next week. But that is what has been revealed so far.
Many more cards, most likely.
So we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at Concede.com, where you'd also find our contact info, our show notes, and Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/Concede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch, twitch.concede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.concede.com. And write into our email at coincede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coincede. You know, it occurs to me that I don't think I've opened Facebook for Concede once. So, should probably remove that from... We're doing some housekeeping, folks. And, trying to work on cleaning up some of the recurring stuff in our show notes. Ripped Facebook, I guess. If you'd like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.concede.com. And we already thanked the producers at the top of the show. So, with this new world order, Coin concedes.
Well, I'm going to coin concede to my oldest daughter who took the SAT a couple of weeks ago. And this was like, she could take it again in August and they do one in school in October. So this was almost like, it's not a practice SAT, like it's a real SAT, but it's like, okay, I'm just going to take it and do, whatever prep I'm going to do and see how we do. And she got a 1320. So,
wow.
Maureen woke up the entire house when she saw the results. So we rewarded her by paying for all of her Final Fantasy 14 stuff for like the foreseeable future. So, because that I was telling her in the car a couple weeks before, like, just Dawn Trail comes out on the 29th, like you want to be able to play that as much as you can over the summer. So if you're not having to prep for the SAT, you can have more time to play Dawn Trail, and boy, howdy does she. So, but we're really happy. We're really happy for her, really proud of her. And, we knew she's a smart kid, but sometimes she doesn't test well, or, it depends on the day, but she knocked it out of the park. So, really happy about that.
Congrats. I will coin concede to my partner, who has been very supportive while I've realized I had a lot, been trying to manage how am I going to do this workload. And he's also been gently pushing me to do some housekeeping on adulting things that need to get done. And so I want to thank him for all of the support on that. Sometimes my ADHD can be a little bit of a trial to live with. So I appreciate the patience with that.
And I will concede to the two of you for holding down the fort, because I had to step out for a moment to talk to my wife about something. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Of course.
Hey, we're a team. We all watch each other's backs. So, but that is going to do it for this episode. So keep calm and have a refreshing drink. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
All life must end. I yield for now.
I concede.
Well fought.
I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend. You win this time. I choose death.